Welcome to 4AZ. I'm your host, Tyler McDowell Blanken, and the holidays are here. We have two new Abbott Elementary episodes to discuss. I welcome George Romero, a Tanque Verde Unified School District teacher, to recap episodes 7 and 8 of season 4. George is a close friend of mine. He attended Miranda schools and felt inspired by many of his teachers to pursue education. George would like to give a special nod to Miss Cordy, Miss Anderson, Mr. Bergeson, and Mr. Winchester for showing him the impact a teacher can have. He teaches special education at Tanque Verde High School, along with contributing to its athletics department, most notably serving on the school's football coaching staff. You'll learn more about George through our Abbott review. We discuss Barbara's winter show, the introduction of Jacob's brother, Ava crashing Janine and Gregory's night, and, of course, Melissa's family dinner. What are you thinking about Season 4? We'd love to know your opinions. Follow us at 4AZTeach or check out 4azteach.org. Special shout out to two of our listeners for sharing their POVs. First, my mom says she loved both episodes. Thank you, Mom. Second, previous guest Mike Steff mentioned that Caleb, Jacob's brother, reminds him of Logan Paul. I don't think that's a compliment. And Mike said waiting until after dinner to announce the rumored death of Melissa's uncle is nuts. I agree. Thank you, Mike. Please be sure to like this video, leave us a 5-star review on your audio platform of choice, or even share it with a friend. Thank you, and enjoy.
Without question, my wife has been the driving force there. Ever since we met, you've met her, Antonia Romero. She's been a huge impact in my life, and from day one, she inspired me to get into education, not just that special education, and she's been a huge advocate for me. She's like my greatest blessing in that sense, and especially going forward, she's been huge in helping me as far as like resource wise, everything in my classroom. She's kind of giving her stamp of approval, and giving her feedback, and it's just been amazing to experience that with her. And like I said, she's been like my biggest cheerleader going into education and going into like the process of education. Well, like going from Pima, transferring over, well, now you're a Wildcat, and we get to share that bond now. So it's been amazing, like such a great ride. And as far as me getting into education, that's kind of my background, I would say, and my inspiration.
I saw the Facebook post earlier this semester where Tony mentioned your amazing wife. George has helped me over the years set up my classrooms, and now look, it's reverse where I'm setting up.
Yeah.
I'm helping set up his classroom, and I'm so proud. And that's amazing, my friend. I love hearing that. And obviously, you two complement each other so well, personally, professionally. It sounds like you're at a really great place in life right now.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I couldn't be here without her support, without like everyone's support. Your guys' the GI guys, having your guys' stamp of approval as far as going into education.
Stamp of approval.
Cool. Yeah.
You needed no stamps, but yeah, it's helpful, particularly, and I promise we'll get into Abbott next. It's helpful when thinking about whether to teach or not to teach. That is the question, right? You hear so much about education, good, scary, indifferent, that yeah, it's important. I did the same thing, George, if we had people uplift us and give us that affirmation. And to your point, it's really such a labor of love. And I love how your entry into teaching, it sounds like, of course, started back in high school with Link Crew and helping welcome in, new Miranda Tigers, the ninth graders, but also coaching was such an influential factor in you considering a career in the classroom. And you're right, coaching and teaching, incredibly similar.
Yeah.
You're working ostensibly with a lesson plan. There's a clear objective in mind. You're being asked to work with young people, a bunch of diverse youngsters who require different tools and support systems. And I love that was an entry, because what I love about hearing teacher stories is all of us have these different entry points. And for you, two of the seminal memories were your experience at Marana High School, which it sounds like was very positive, and then all those years later getting into coaching and wanting to become that empathetic, dynamic, supportive teacher and coach. You're a
Yeah,
hero. You are a hero.
thank you.
I love that for you. Well, speaking of heroes, speaking of people I love, George Romero, you're not just here to talk about the amazing work you're doing. That could be its own separate episode, George. You are also here to discuss Abbott Elementary. Fill our audience in. What is your relationship to Abbott? Were you a day one? We won't judge if the answer is no. Were you a day one? Did you discover Abbott recently? Tell us more about how you discovered the show and your relationship to it.
So I would say I caught it about mid season one. So I wasn't late to the part, or I was a little late to the party, but um, we were able to catch up. And again, it kind of hit us in a time where my wife, she was a elementary school teacher, so it was very much applicable. And again, me being around education, just kind of hearing her stories and then seeing uh, Abbott is pretty great. Like just the inner workings of a school. Like if you've worked there, these characters become more real. I feel like, and
Oh, we'll get into them for
yeah,
sure.
especially maybe not quite as hyperbolic, but like the core of those characters is genuine and real.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, and then so we did have Hulu the first 2 years, uh, first two seasons, so we were able to watch. Last year, um, we didn't have Hulu for the first time. So season three, we actually just bought the entire season on Prime. So we're that invested. And
That's a
then
real that's a real fandom.
yeah, yeah, and then
That's legit.
what is it? Season four right now. Luckily, we got YouTube TV, so we've just been kind of DVRing and going along
Nice.
with it.
Yeah.
But I will say, my wife, she's in and out of season four, but she's much more of a binge watcher. So I'm
Ah.
assuming by the end of season four, she's going to power through all of it together.
Okay, very nice. That's very doable. From what I see online, there are only two more episodes left in season four. I don't know how we got here already, but the winter break is complicating the release schedule a bit. I don't believe we're going to get
Hmm.
new Abbott until the new year, George, in January. And at that point, there are only two more episodes left. Like I said, the finale being the long awaited It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia crossover. And
Okay.
I'm not even going to call it episode event. That's received a
Yeah.
lot of hype. But George, before we get there, let's finally get into it. We are here to discuss episodes 7 and 8. This was very much, we were speaking about this before our recording. This is very much winter themed, holiday, Christmas. So, episode 7 is entitled Winter Show. It had nearly 3 million views, George, the highest rated episode of, or highest viewed episode of the season, which I find very interesting. So ABC released these two back to back this past week. We're recording on Sunday. I know I mentioned the Sunday best attire. Go Wildcats for George earlier. Recording this on Sunday. So a few days ago, these episodes dropped on ABC. Again, nearly 3 million viewers tuned in. Big, big look for Abbott. Here is the plot description, George. Barbara plans a Christmas show for the school, but decides to change the theme to include all of her students, much to the chagrin of the other teachers. Now, Jacob's brother visits for the first time in 3 years, causing Jacob to feel insecure, and Melissa plans for her family dinner. Okay, where to start, my friend? I want to begin with Barbara. She is the veteran teacher. I mean, there are many veteran teachers at the school, but she is the face of being a savvy vet at Abbott. Uh, in my mind, she's really the glue of the school, George, for kids, for her colleagues who are looking to her for guidance. She's very much giving North Star, right?
Hmm.
And she's also the event planner, particularly for this winter episode. Uh, I want to hear your thoughts on this particular storyline for this episode with Barbara, and really just a reflection, especially you being new to the game. This idea that as teachers, so many of us, especially the best ones, don't just teach. You don't just see them, okay, it's the end of the day and then they're in the parking lot 10 minutes
Mhm.
later. This idea of doing more for kids and for your school community, whether that be coaching, uh, being an advisor for a club, in Barbara's case, organizing the winter show. Your thoughts on Barbara as a character, and then again, I think what you and I agree with, what Abbott does right, in that this is very accurate. Teachers of all ages and backgrounds, you tend to not just teach during those contract hours. You end up doing more because some of us can't say no, which I've been guilty of. But more importantly, you just want to give back, you want to contribute, you want to support kids. So, thoughts on this part of the episode, George, and then overall, just Barbara, and perhaps how you see this playing out in real life as a new teacher, of being challenged and wanting to do more than just the contract hours, if you will.
Now, and kind of, yeah, her plot line, especially in this episode, I do feel like it's not just teaching outside of the hours, it's teaching the non-curriculum. It's teaching the inclusion of other students, because that's where this is all like based from. Like the uh, main theme for her character, or like this episode, is uh, she's making a way for one student to participate where they wouldn't be able to, given the context of like true Christmas.
Mhm.
So
There's that great shot in the episode that they put on social where Barbara's sitting next to the student, and you
yeah,
can just see the love and the support. That's a
yeah,
great call.
and being able to see someone's different background and being able to kind of tailor what we can for them. Um, and like you said, Barbara being the uh, I think it's also pivotal that she's that kindergarten teacher. So she's getting these kids the first year that they're introduced into uh, just into education at all. So it's huge that she's the one that gets to see them first, and then they go forward. I think in another episode, someone or they had mentioned the importance of like the kindergarten, just social aspect. Uh, Someone that was on here, I believe it was another episode, but um, yeah, and how COVID kind of uh, changed that. But now we're getting back to that and seeing the importance of a lot of social emotional happens in those first like formative educational years. So seeing like Barbara be that character that takes that ownership, and hearing she's referred to as the goat of like teaching. So
She is the goat.
um,
Yeah, yeah. She's the goat. She's the goat of Abbott.
yes, so it's been I really liked this episode, especially because it deals with that challenge of diversity in the sense of inclusion, and having you want every student to be able to participate in this, no matter if it is a quote unquote like Christmas show, or uh, if it has to change to a winter show, just being able to have kids be seen again.
Right. And as you highlighted in why you became a teacher and the current work you're doing, this is obviously central to what you do every day. I think you were referencing the Sarah Beth episode, discussing
Yeah.
episodes 1 and 2, Amazing Teacher and
Yes.
Miranda Unified. Yeah, shout out to Sarah Beth. Shout out to you for supporting, George. I appreciate you so much. If we can just stay there for one moment with Barbara, what was your instant reaction when Tariq ended up saving the day? When it came time for the performance, it didn't really go off as planned. So Tariq steps in. He just sort of improvises, and then it turns out the crowd was really into it. And there that infamous Abbott step team made an appearance. I know you
Yes.
mentioned Tariq before we went on air. Thoughts on him? Because in my opinion, he's a character who could have easily just been written off once Janine, kind of leveled up and finally entered a relationship with Gregory. What do you make of the decision to keep Tariq and his current role being this? He just kind of comes in and provides levity for the audience. Sometimes he saves the day, as he did in this episode. What's our vibe check on Tariq? How are we feeling?
Tariq's been one of my favorite characters since he was brought in. Like he's almost like, and I don't mean this as a slight. He's kind of a lovable fool. Like uh, he's so great at his character, and just he's so well written into the show, especially like um, actually, and him being the head of the PTA, like, how does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Especially because he's like the stepfather, or
Right.
not even a stepfather. He's dating
The mom of
the mom
a student,
of
right?
a student. So
Right.
he becomes the head of the PTA. So that's always pretty funny, like his ascension to that spot.
It is
And
an
then,
ascension, yes.
yeah. And then,
From SoundCloud rapper to PTA president. That's a
yes.
glow up.
And finding that, what is it? The avenue of like clean rap into, but he's just been a great character, like, that I'm happy they've kept around. And uh, also, like, where we found or kind of took him from this episode where, yeah, the PTA is pretty upset that you changed the Christmas theme. Like, and not just that, I'm pretty sure he says yeeted. So everything is wrestling.
Everything is
Um,
wrestling. Main event Jey Uso.
yes, but no, that's been pretty great. Like, sub plot line for him, kind of seeing where we found him and how he kind of sporadically comes in and out. So it's always funny to see him, a welcome addition to every episode he's in. Um, and then with like the whole step team, that was pretty great, like seeing them, how they did everything. But I was going to ask you, actually, I have not felt more seen as an educator, and other than that cold open, where I play my music and students do not know what I'm playing. Like, oh
Yes,
man, I
yes. I saw a friend
absolutely.
post about this as well, as a matter of fact. Same sentiment. Of course. Is it a
And
specific song you recall where students looked at you sideways? Was it TLC? Was it, Curtis Blow? Was it some Selena? What were we talking? Is there a
oh,
specific song you remember?
so actually, it was so. I know you kind of know this feeling. Being a coach, going into uh, creating playlists for uh, like pre games or anything. Well, I was in charge of being the MC for Tanque Verde High School, their soccer team, and they gave me full reins of, you get to pick the pregame warm up stuff, do whatever you want. Well, it was kind of sprung on me, so I don't know if you know this, or you probably do because you're hip to the game, I would say. Uh, Rappers that have clean music off the
It's
top
my
of my
it's
head.
my it's my preference.
Yeah,
We're talking
off.
like Lecrae, uh,
So I just wanted something to go over the airwaves. So I was like,
yeah,
boom,
Andy Mineo,
Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince. Who wouldn't
I
love
was,
that?
I was like,
West Philadelphia.
everyone loves Fresh Prince. Like, come on. A little bit further on in his career, I was like, everyone can get jiggy with it. So we start playing Get
That's
Jiggy
a
with It.
that's a bop, yeah. Some
Uh,
Wild West. That's also an
oh my
Abbott
God.
tie-in earlier this season.
Yes.
I love the Abbottness of your selections here, George Romero. Very good.
Well, I start playing that and no one knows. I was like, how do you guys not know who the Fresh Prince is?
They didn't know the Fresh Prince theme song.
No. And I
Oh,
was so upset. I was like, in West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playgrounds.
it's
Like,
where I
is this?
spent most of my days.
Yeah, come on. Like,
They didn't
we
know?
can keep going. And they just
Oh,
did not know.
wow. Okay, well, this is
It hurt me.
this is hurtful. This is very
And
hurtful. Oh my
it just,
gosh.
again, going
Oh
back to that cold
no.
open,
Yeah, yes,
I was like,
exactly.
oh Lord, I feel
Yeah.
this.
We are here to educate them, George. You are educating students, Take Verde Hawks, not only in the classroom but out of the classroom, specifically with these seminal '90s sitcoms. George, I want to
Yes.
ask you about one
Mhm.
more plot line specifically on this winter show episode. We got to talk about Jacob and the introduction of his brother Caleb. Oh my goodness. So Caleb is a personal trainer who is very popular. It's the classic case of you introduce your family member to to colleagues, to people you know, and it's giving they like that person more than they like you. they're laughing at his jokes. He's saying goodbye and they're responding. You say
Hmm.
goodbye, no one really pays attention. The way they shot this, the way they developed the kind of juxtaposition between how Abbott staff is reacting to Caleb versus the everyday with Jacob, I thought it was hilarious and very telling. But then there's also, as you pointed out, George, Abbott does this really fine job of mixing in the comedy with the lines and the plot developments that really hit home and possibly resonate with audience members. So Jacob, as I mentioned during the plot description, reveals that he reveals, and it's clear that he's very insecure. He shares that his brother Caleb reminds him of home and not feeling accepted back home, particularly due to his sexuality. Caleb, athletic, again, personal trainer. Jacob, not necessarily, that was necessarily his interest
Hmm.
back then and currently. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the brotherly relationship that we're introduced to. And then by the end of the episode, it's funny because the podcast club on campus interviews Caleb, and then that's when Jacob is really upset, and he says like, Caleb, I don't want you here. What are you doing? But then it's revealed later on during that recording with the student podcast club, Caleb is actually saying, no, Jacob's my hero. He's always been consistent. He's been the smartest person in the family. He's so kind. And then of course Jacob feels horrible. He apologizes, and then they kind of share that brotherly love, and then we're back on track. What do you think about these two? And again, just this relationship that we have with family members or people in our life that can be very complicated and requires these difficult conversations.
Yeah, like we've said, Abbott really does hit home on a lot of things. Again, the hyperbolic nature takes over at times, but at its core, it does speak to real issues or real life scenarios. And me being a younger brother to three older siblings, uh, it does become genuine and real. Like, uh, especially the when Jacob is kind of thinking less of himself. Well, from this younger sibling's point of view, I don't see your problems, but I see just like my role model or my who I look up to, and I I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Obviously, I'm not going through the day to day, but seeing how like your older siblings can handle themselves and move forward and kind of uh, seem stronger than they are in the moment. So that was actually like pretty big for me. This episode, seeing that and kind of identifying with that, um, growing up, looking up to my older siblings, and then um, maybe I didn't communicate that much, that I looked at them in that light enough, but I would hope that they do feel that I'm proud of them and moving forward. I wouldn't want them to uh, like, think of me as a toss away. Like I don't want them to uh, be embarrassed of me or of it or anything like that. So seeing that, it was pretty great. Especially like you said, it's pretty funny. Caleb gets invited to the family dinner right off the bat
Yeah.
while he's still waitlisted.
Right. He's
Yeah,
charming, he's charismatic, and Jacob is watching all this play out like they like him more than me, just like it was when we were back home
yeah,
when we were growing up. Right, right.
yeah. And then also like associating your traumas with one person, kind of feel like that was a pretty good uh, like scene where Caleb's like, well, I'm not them, right? Like just kind of calling it out for what it is,
I'm not
where
like our parents, right?
yeah, like there's nothing but love here.
Mm.
I'm coming at this from a different point of view, different perspective, and almost like respect me enough to know that uh, I'm my own person. I'm not what we were brought up to be.
Right, right. And that was a real eye opener for me, George, through teaching has been It's a reminder of how many blessings I've had where my family life was really structured and healthy. And I knew when I got home, I had two people who loved me. There was food on the table. And you learn pretty quickly in education that not every student has those, that same lifestyle to no fault of their own. Maybe
Mhm.
their parents aren't supportive. Maybe there aren't two parents in the home. Maybe there are financial challenges. And that's something that I learned early on is, wow, I had it so good. And I need to remember that I come from a real place of privilege in that regard. And when students enter our classrooms, if they don't seem interested or they're not engaging with the content, it's not always, oh, they just want to be a jerk today, right?
Yeah.
There's probably something going on that happened before this class period or happened in the morning or last night that may revolve around these topics of not feeling accepted, not receiving the love that they should. And it's so nuanced. And I think what they did here, what Abbott did here with Jacob and Caleb was very profound. It made me think of students I've had. It also made me think of, like you said, familial relationships and supporting colleagues who may be going through a tough time. Abbott really, really hit a home run on this episode.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
3
for
million
sure.
people, yeah, 3 million people tuned into this.
Oh,
Now,
and
oh, George, please, yeah, before we get into the other
I
one.
was gonna say I definitely forgot to uh, remind you, but Oshan was back.
Oh, Sean, yes. Oshan is back. What does the future have in store for Oshan and Ava? Is this going to lead to something?
It has to,
It
like,
has
they're
to.
the chemistry
Yeah,
aspect of
undeniable.
it, just, yeah, undeniable. And uh yeah, when I he's got like Jalen Hurts slash have you seen Criminal Minds? I forget the actor's name
Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
Criminal Minds.
Shamar Moore,
Yes.
definitely. Jalen Hurts energy. Shamar Moore, yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think he's
So
going to take off the glasses at some point, or just be in like a different. Maybe they go to that sports bar, sports grill, hang out across the street. I think we're just going to
mhm,
get Oshan presented in less of a formal district tech guy, you know, uh, situation. And yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely going to give Shamar Moore and Jalen Hurts if it's not already.
definitely is.
I
And
wonder if
so
these two are going to get
I'm
married. I wonder.
I'm looking forward to this
Too
plot
soon.
line. Like I
Me too. Me too.
I
And,
definitely feel it's going places.
and there's this and then we'll get into the next episode, George. There's this kind of cloud that's hanging over. And I didn't think about it, admittedly, during these two episodes, because these two episodes were perfect in every way. Probably my two favorite of the season. But we know the introduction of Oshan was clouded with the fact that Abbott is getting these kickbacks from the golf course lawyer. So they're getting these computers, is getting these other perks, which is great because inherently it's all about serving students and giving the students nice things. But I wonder, Oshan seems down and very trustworthy, and he's not going to rat them out for the district. That's in fact why he is overseeing Abbott and is spending so much time there. But I just worry if by the end of the season this is going to come back into play, and I wonder what that means for Oshan. I wonder what that means for Ava as the principal. And in the meantime, we're just going to enjoy the ride. But
Hmm.
part of me still worries that this is going to come back in some way and not be good if the district finds out.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's that cloud, but I don't know. I feel like Abbott, with being realistic, like set in their universe, um, I do feel like they've overall had some pretty good outcomes. Like, uh, kind of like they put their positivity out into the world and positive things come back. So I'm fingers crossed, hoping for the best of Abbott.
I hope so. I agree with you. Okay, finally, episode 8 entitled, so we had Winter Show. This one entitled Winter Break had apparently, reportedly 2.6 million views. So still a very, very strong number for the season. Description of this episode, George: Melissa hosts Christmas Eve dinner with her family. We're going to get into it. Jacob and Barbara are there as well, of course, and Melissa will not let anything get in her way of delivering an outstanding meal, even when there's a dead body upstairs. Yikes. And elsewhere, Janine and Greg settle in for their first Christmas Eve together, only for Ava to show up unannounced. I want to start with the discovery that Ava's dad in fact, she has a dad and he does live in town. This is the brilliance of Abbott, George. Gregory, his colleagues are clowning him for not getting a haircut. So we finally see that he ends up at a barber shop, and his barber turns out to be Ava's dad. He discovers because the barber asks, "Hey, what do you do?" "I'm a teacher." "Oh, my daughter's a principal." "Oh, where at?" "Oh, the school, Abbott Elementary." And the actor is played by Keith David, George, one of my favorite actors, a legend in entertainment, specifically in the Black community. If I couldn't love Abbott anymore, they just insert Keith David here, and I was beaming. So we know that Keith David is Ava's dad. Like I said, George, again, one of my favorite actors. And we have Janine and Greg, the development, the furthering of their relationship. They are going strong. We need them to. If we have one thing we can believe in 2024, it is the love of Janine Teagues and Gregory Eddy. And again, Ava ends up coming over to their home for the holidays, only to leave when there's a party outside that she was just apparently waiting for. George, I want to start by asking you, what do you think of couples onesies? Because of course, George, Greg and Janine are wearing this matching green and white Christmas onesie. Let's start with what the people really came to hear your perspective on, George Romero. Couples onesies, particularly around the holidays. Yay or nay?
So,
Do I need to check your Facebook if there are receipts of this? I don't think I've seen you and Tony in holiday onesies.
no. And there, to me, there's like reasons for it. So, I'm not going to say you're wrong if this is what you do. If this is your couple thing, more power to you. But for me, I would say no because one, do they actually sleep in them? Because they're like pajamas, right? They're supposed to be pajamas. You sleep in pajamas. I see no function if I'm just going to wear them and then not sleep in them. Two, uh, like the whole, some couples, yes, they want to be cute and look good for the gram and put on that show of we're matchy matchy. I'm not opposed to it. Like Halloween, we can have uh like we can have costumes that go together. We can do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Just matching pajamas is not my thing, but I'm not going to knock those who that is theirs. Plus, also the fit. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm a little bit taller, different build. It's not.
You are George
It,
Romero, sneakily tall man. This is true.
it's
I can confirm.
yeah. It's not a um. It's not a universal fit for those things.
It's not a
I
universal
would
fit.
say.
That's so true. Well, it sounds like you and Tony are aligned in that. It's like there's some friction, and oh, she's pro couples onesies around Christmas, and you are. It sounds like you two are very much aligned, as you are aligned with a lot of things. This is why you are couple goals, George. So I love that element of this episode. I love that we're not losing sight of Janine and Greg really being two centerpieces of Abbott Elementary, and then Ava. I'm fascinated with Ava's journey throughout really all four seasons of Abbott, as being introduced, as you mentioned the word hyperbolic a few times, Ava being introduced as this very extroverted figure. She's an administrator, she's a principal, she's always doing the most, or sometimes not really doing
Yeah,
the most. But this season in particular, she's being seen as having real administrative chops and being looked at as someone who has a lot of prowess, and behind the jokes and behind the sarcasm is has a lot of talent in her role as a principal. So I'm curious, speaking of your incredible partner Tony, being able to witness her ascend from classroom teacher to this year, correct me if I'm wrong, this is her first year in admin working as an
mhm.
assistant principal. What's that been like to see her journey into administration? And then again, kind of branching off of that, what are your thoughts on Ava's growth this year into not just being a character to deliver some jokes, but also to see her journey as an administrator and also just as a person who, it turns out, has a dad and has feelings and is showing some signs of vulnerability at times, including during this winter break episode.
And well, with specifically with Tony, she had such a quick rise to administration. It's almost and it's such a like it's a blessing, but then you also think about, well, she comes home and is kind of like, well, I don't see the kids in the same light anymore. I'm not as hands-on in the classroom. So, and that's what she truly loves, is dealing with that one-on-one with the children, and being able to have that kind of conversation, or have those conversations with students. And she's missing that. So there is that, like, good and bad to it. Yes, you can affect change for greater, but you're also kind of missing what you love most about the job. Because I don't know of any administrator that got into it because they were like, I love paperwork, I love structure, I don't love these kids. So it's kind of a double-edged, like, sword there. Like, you can have some things, but you can't have everything. And then seeing the uh, Ava story kind of flesh out throughout these 4 years is pretty great, because, like you said, you didn't really think of her as admin, like, early on. And that's something I love about what they've built in now, is where you're seeing her, like, you never thought of anything, or you never thought of her as the principal, truly, other than just title alone before this. Now you're actually seeing, um, oh yeah, this is why she has this job. Like, in this universe, like, she had to have shown something beforehand to be given this position, and she's kind of filled in and fit into her own and come into her own. And really, you're seeing that this is almost just her leading style. Her leadership style is that of, I'm going to serve everyone else, and they're going to all eat, and they're going to be better for it, where I can be hands off and they can now flesh out their own identities as educators. Because truly, I think that's where administration succeeds in real life, is where, yes, they can give you valuable pointers and valuable feedback. Be realistic about what you're asking for first, because sometimes you get the administrators that come in and want you to stand and deliver every single day, where that's not exactly where we're at societally or age group wise. So if they can chime in with feedback that is both useful and applicable, I think this is kind of where you see the vision for Ava, where everyone's succeeding because she has the ability to take her hands off and let them grow.
Right, right. And as you pointed out, George, administrators vary in terms of personality, in terms of style. I've been very fortunate. I think I've shared it on our platform here, that I've been very, very fortunate to have, by and large, strong administrators, supportive, empathetic administrators who, to your point, George, even though they're not in the classroom every day, and in some cases they haven't been in the classroom for years, they understand that it's important to trust teachers with knowing what students need, and that can vary depending on class period. That can vary depending on, school year to school year. And I love what you said, the traditional approach from decades ago of that stand and deliver model.
Mm.
That's just not where we're at. Now, I only know the secondary context, but that doesn't lead to the best outcome. Students need something different that is more reflective of, as you pointed out, the times we're living in. And that's good. That challenges educators to do something new and
Yeah, do
embrace
something new.
change. And
Exactly.
we
And
always want to do what's best for students. Sometimes that requires us to be a bit uncomfortable.
yeah, do what's best for students, do what's best for you too, like, as an educator. Because um, I think a part of this, like we've said, is this job is so much of the non on the clock hours. Uh, and do its best for you as an educator, where yes, you're putting everything into this, but take some time for yourself as well. Like, make sure you are in the strongest place mentally to where you can give that back to students.
Well said. What would you like to say about? I'm not doing her justice by giving her a 2 to 3 minute time window here, but the Melissa of it all for these two episodes, specifically this Christmas party. And this is really the kind of the climax of the episode, where she ended up delivering an outstanding holiday meal for her family. Her family, very Italian, very much picks on her, and there's a lot of pressure. Melissa needs to get this done, even though I think it was Jacob or Jacob's brother, Caleb, that discovered one of Melissa's elder family members upstairs, who's kind of like I was going to say a wisecracker. I don't know if I've ever used that term out loud before. He's a wisecracking family member, but he ends up not even just asleep upstairs, seemingly, but he's out. Caleb, Jacob's brother, checks the pulse. There's no pulse. He's dead.
Checks the pulse.
Checks the pulse
Yeah,
incorrectly, we learned. But then they inform Melissa, and Melissa, this is probably the funniest part of the whole episode. Rather than calling an ambulance immediately and shutting things down because a family member may be deceased upstairs, she says, "You know what? I've worked too hard for this dinner to happen. Let's wait until after. Please give it some time." And there's a lot of comedy that ensues. But what did you make of the introduction to Melissa's family? Again, very Italian, very, I say this as someone with an Italian father, just very hilarious characters here. And then the fact that Jacob is there, Barbara's there, Caleb's there. What did you make of the family party here, George? Melissa's kind of situationship, the paramedic
yeah.
guy, he ends up popping up because they do get a response, and it turns out the family member is not dead. He ends up coming down, which I'm so glad he wasn't. George, I'm not doing it justice by cramming it in here, but what say you about probably the funniest part of this entire episode?
Yeah, that part of it is pretty great because it's so real. Like we've said before, you know, more I feel it more with the Thanksgiving. I would say with like Thanksgiving, putting on a big meal with my family, very big, or like having so many different people, like cooks in the kitchen. My mom's always got a big feast for us on Thanksgiving, and you got to bring it if you're going to bring a dish. Like you can't like uh don't bring like you got to bring the heat. You got to bring something that's good, or else it's not going to be like prime placement on the table for everyone else. So, and it is funny because like I think that instinct of like this needs to happen because I've worked for it. Um, like it does take over, especially like when there's an event that you really need to happen. You're like, well, I just got to kind of roll with the punches. Like something happens, I got to keep going. Um, and it is
like
funny that
like a lesson, right?
yeah,
Sometimes it doesn't matter. I am going to make sure this gets executed. I need to finish this.
yeah, and it's almost like, well, that happened. Let's keep moving forward. Now, not to the extreme of
No, no,
potential, yeah,
no, no, not at all.
potential dead body upstairs. But it's also funny that she just kind of is also bargaining with everyone throughout the whole thing. They come in, let know the stakes, and then just give me the next course, please. Like, don't worry about it. It's not your guys' problem. Give me a little bit more time. It's so funny to see her go through this, and then especially, like I said, having everyone kind of critique uh, her meals and how to uh, what is like, oh well, they associate with her not having a husband that she can't cook or she's not able to cook.
Right,
So there is that level of stakes too, where I'm gonna
man.
show
Yeah,
you guys
taking
what.
shots,
And I
coming for
didn't
her.
know this until recently. I was listening to another podcast that like that's a big thing in like Italian men make the big meals, where Italian women make like more the everyday kind of meals. Italian men, for some reason, take over on those big high holidays because they want to show what they've got, or like, and it's weird because it comes from a place of like toxic masculinity in that sense, but seeing her take over and have this whole feast ready for everyone and kind of like as a shove it moment, like this is what you guys get for believing so little in me. Like it's pretty great to see that happen or like take form in this episode. And then yeah, like the the whole life alert not working,
Life alert.
working not
Right.
working. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know those were still around, especially since everyone has cell phones. Like
I didn't either. I didn't either. It was a game seven moment for Melissa Chimenti for sure, George. Okay, well, it is time to get into our exit ticket. George, you know how we do it around here. I have two questions for you. They are both fill in the blank to conclude our conversation. Are you ready?
yes.
First one. GNX is the best Kendrick album since blank.
Damn. So not that Mr. Morale wasn't a good album. Mr. Morale has a very uh, I think deep meaning to it. And it's very uh, beyond surface level. Like it takes a couple listens to kind of get, but it doesn't have the commercial like bangers that Damn had. And um, GNX is truly like West Coast. It is so West Coast. It's amazing. I love it. Uh, like it just puts on for the West. And when you've had the past couple months like Kendrick has had, you can't have something not put on the way uh, GNX does. And I think it's kind of like Damn, where uh, I feel you can start Damn from the top and just play it to the bottom. No skips, just let it run. GNX, I feel, is the same way, where start it from the top, let's go to the through all the tracks, and there's not a skippable song on there. So I would say since Damn, and if I were also like as the Kendrick fan in me, I would say it's ranked up there to me with like To Pimp a Butterfly. I really believe this is a solid album, and the fact that it's just 12 tracks of straight heat, and uh, I'm hoping, and the fact that he added, well, I don't know how it is on Apple Music, but on Spotify, there's the clean versions of the songs. So you definitely know next time at Tanque Verde High School, Squabble Up is going to come up on there. It might scare some folks, but Squabble Up is too good of a banger to not play.
Is the community ready for TV off? Can we play
Uh,
that?
I don't know. I don't know because of I don't want to disrespect the other team. Like
That's you know what that's completely fair. Okay, next one. I'm actually going to fit in two final ones here because I want to make sure I fulfill my promise to you earlier that we can talk about both of our squads. Brent Brennan, U of A. I got to frame this in. I'm adding this. This is what we call improvisation, George. I am adding this last minute. This wasn't on my sheet originally. I would hold on. Year two of the Brent Brennan experience as Arizona's head football coach would be considered a success if blank. What are you looking for in year two? He's coming back. I don't know if you heard.
bowl eligible and territorial cup competitive. Uh, what upsets me really about the territorial cup is not that you lost; it's that it was non-competitive. Um, and as a coach, again, I know things like don't go 100% your way. There's some games that like you can game plan your butt off all week and feel that your scheme is the thing, but it's chess where I don't know what the next move is going to be, so I have to prepare for it. Things not might not line up 100% of the time, but the way that when I saw Scatabo running over defenders and pursuit of offensive players on the from the defensive side where it doesn't look like I want to go hit someone. Like to me, it it reached embarrassment levels when that I saw that. Where okay, you guys aren't taking pride in what you're doing. So that's where I was at for the territorial cut. Bowl eligible uh, is always a good marker, I would say, like especially because now it is so easily attainable where you think 6 wins, you get to it may not be an amazing bowl game, but going to a bowl game does mean something. Like remember we it wasn't too far back that we were excited to be in the New Mexico Bowl. We were excited to be in like the Poinsettia Bowl or something like that. So I'm not nitpicking and saying that college football playoff or bust. Do I think they had the talent? Yes, but also no. Like Jed Fish is a really good coach. He's been around forever, um, and he's got the ear of um, NFL coaches and the buy-in from people that are pretty well known. Brett Brennan is came in as kind of an unknown commodity, but I also can't put a price tag on him genuinely wanting to be here. That was a big selling point for me when he came in was you can tell this was the destination for him, not like Jed Fish where this was a stop for something bigger. Where you know I want someone that wants to be here and someone that wants to and kind of listening to Brennan's exit press conference, it was big for me to say, you know what, him kind of take ownership of it. Where yeah, this is unacceptable. I understand that, but we're going to do everything we can uh, to move forward. Now, I think he needs to find an identity schematically wise, uh, especially like offensively. So you need to put the right people in the right places. But I'm not one that was saying you need to get rid of him after 1 year. I do think building culture takes time. And again, looking back, did we have that same energy for Jed Fish? Because he started similar, worse actually. Remember, they poured Gatorade on the man for when he won a game. Like we are not like don't get it twisted. The University of Arizona, I love the University of Arizona, but there have been some dark times, and like Brett Brennan is not the worst of the worst. He's might not be the best of the best yet, but we have to give him time.
I think what's plagued the Cats is that inability over the years to put together two back-to-back winning seasons, right? And this was supposed to you and I both already know this. This was supposed to be the season where, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, you got the greatest prospect ever to come to U of A in T-Mac. You got Noah. This is the time. Even though Jordan Morgan went to the NFL and, Jacob Cowling as well. Okay, George, this is very good. Last one. Please humor me with this final exit ticket question. You mentioned the college football playoff. I don't know if you're aware, but our Arizona State Sun Devils are in the CFP.
Mm-hmm.
I would describe the state of ASU football as blank.
I'm not going to say they've arrived yet, but they're still right on the cusp of big things. That's actually what really worries me about being like a U of A fan is the team up north. I know they got their stuff together, and they're almost like 2 steps ahead of what it both worries me, but also gives me hope that ASU kind of they went off the beaten path and hired Coach Dillingham, and now you're seeing the reward for it. So I do think that they are on the cusp of big things. Hearing like I was watching the pregame uh, before and kind of hearing his story of like he lives down the street from where his parents live.
Chaparral High School,
Yeah, he's a Tempe
graduated from
guy, like
ASU, right? Right. This is
and
always the dream destination.
exactly. So hearing that and like I said with Coach Brennan, I feel like this is the destination for them.
It's
So
similar. Yeah, it's similar. The way they've gone about it
yeah,
has
and
been
that
different.
yeah,
Community
and that
engagement
energy
and
you
right,
can't
but similar in that
yeah,
regard. Sure, sure.
you
This is
you
the dream school for
cannot
both.
top the energy of a coach that wants to be there in the sense of college football where um, right now we're in such a place where NIL and portal have made it so easy to uh, transfer, go pick where you want to be, who's going to pay you the most. Well, if my head coach loves where he's at, that is contagious. So it becomes a matter of culture and building what you have here, where um, like him, yeah, there were guys who were portaled into ASU, but they kind of met their apex. They've reached their apex here because they were not brought in to be the piece, they were brought in to be a piece of the puzzle. And then we can figure it out together. So, them going now, do I root for their success in the college football playoff? I'm going to be realistic. I don't think they get to the next round. I think there's some real dogs in this. Like, but there's some matchups. I haven't seen the bracket yet. I know it's going to come out here shortly.
Yeah,
Obviously, they put
as of
yeah,
this recording, we're still waiting on
yeah.
the official seeding
Obviously,
to
they
come out.
punched their ticket, and they did. They really put a beat down on Iowa State, something I didn't think they were going to be able to do. So and I want to say they'll probably host whoever is going to like come play here. So you might like want to be careful what you ask for because you're looking at Penn State, Ohio State, potentially Alabama if they get in. So it'll be it'll be a tall task to get past the first round, but it I'm happy for what they've uh, become because obviously I want that for the University of Arizona, but to see that it's not unattainable in our state is pretty impressive. And it's good to see that they've done it with guys that want to do it the right way.
My takeaway from your response is that George was wrong heading into the Iowa State ASU game, and perhaps all we can hope is that George is wrong again. I'm sure we will revisit this conversation at some point. George, I love you. I appreciate you. This was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. How can our audience connect with you and support your incredible work?
So right now, I'm just down to the X account. Just decided one day, you know what? Let's cut some things out. Potentially restart in the future, but right now, the best way to reach me is X. So Niners 94. And I'm trying to be as active as I can with like GI 4AZ, kind of keeping my finger on the pulse there because I got to get my wrestling content still. So yeah, it's been again, thank you for having me on. It's been a blessing. Love seeing you have your success and always rooting for more. So thank you again.
Thank you, my friend. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.